So take us through the journey of how you both became co-founders. More importantly, how does one choose the right co-founder? What is that DNA? What is that chemistry? What is that moment of eureka to say, हाँ यार, इसी के साथ करना है? What is that calling?
From my personal experience, right, I think the best way to find a co-founder is not to go looking out for one, but to understand where the need gap is. What is it that someone that'll come into your business come help and solve, right? In the case of Rishabh and I, we both had ideas, we both had a vision, we were executing on ourselves by ourselves. And what really worked is that after getting into the business, right, after understanding the struggles, the challenges, even the growth, right, we really understood, we had a very good clarity on in terms of what it takes to build a strong business, what it takes to build a strong foundation. And it just made sense, right? Like
go a little deeper in that. Tell our viewers, in your view, what are the ingredients that actually creates the strong fundamental of a business when you start out? And I think fundamentals are, sector agnostic, even though you are in the D2C space, but take us through your thought process of what actually creates that strong fundamental.
I think the number one thing is extreme clarity on the levers that move the business and identifying that. And when you can identify that, finding the right person that can lead those, right? In the case of Rishabh and I, we really understood that these are the 3-4 levers that run the business, that move the business. And that if we can spend significant more time than we can individually on running those levers, we can dramatically change the outcome of what we want to build and really hit the visions, really achieve the visions which we had set in mind. Specific examples are like having a really, really good, having a lot of time, a lot of bandwidth focusing on product, having a lot of bandwidth focusing on marketing, right? Doing it individually and realizing what your strengths and weaknesses are is very, very important. Early on, it allows you to understand who is it that can fill in your shoes, give you that ability to run even in areas where you're not as good in. And I think if you take like an anecdote from sports, right? Like you're as good as your weakest player. Take that into business, you take that into entrepreneurship, and you realize that, you know what, if there's certain areas you're not that great at, you need to buffen it up. You need to get the right co-founder on board that can handle areas of the business where you're not as good at. And I think that coming together allows you to really deliver at the topmost potential, to really take on the market, take on innovation and drive the sort of synergy towards the vision you have.
So complementary skill sets is what Akash is talking about, but simultaneously he also said ki yaar, in his mind and view, you don't really go out looking for a right co-founder. But also, the reality is that a lot of it plays out in terms of luck. Ki by luck do you get the right co-founder? So take us a bit about how did you guys meet? How did brother-in-laws decide to get into business, which can be so crazy? Tell us how that happened.
And that I think one of the key ingredients of success, right? Is I think the relationship me and Akash have, right? And us both joining hands. I think without this, I think me and Akash will be running mega companies today, doing like maybe 40-50 lakhs a month yet. So for me, I'll tell you what happened is I think me and Akash were running 2 different brands, right? Olina and Plix. And we were building it up slowly. And I think when I used to chat with Akash, we used to realize we have very similar sets of problems. We are a one-man army. Kaise build karenge? It get very difficult hiring people. How much can you focus on? We are bootstrapped. We couldn't go and just like throw cash around.
Couldn't even experiment, yeah.
And we were honestly both from traditional family businesses, not running a business, like not having really like the corporate business background which most people have, right? So our problems are very similar. And that's when I spoke to, and to be honest, like when I told the first thought came to me is like, मैं तो struggle कर रहा हूँ. I need someone to help me. Let me check with Akash. And I told my family about it, right? And that was a big no, by the way, right? Mom was like, नहीं यार, घर में business नहीं कर सकते यार. Relations will also get spoiled. In fact,
एक तरह बेटा, एक तरह जमाई.
Yeah, she's like, नहीं, ये तो नहीं. My wife said no. In fact, even like Priyanta, right? Poonam also said no, right? And then, so in that, for me,
Poonam's your sister.
Poonam's my sister, right?
His better half.
Yeah, and she's from the great part of the company today, who was not working. And I think she would also always be in a fix, yeah, what should I do? Who should I support? Because we are running very similar businesses, right? So it made sense in sense that we both joined hands for me. But by the way, in that conversation, our fathers agreed. Our fathers were like...
So before our fathers agreed, we agreed ourselves.
We agreed ourselves, but our fathers were like, this is a good decision also, right? 1 and 1 makes 11. So then without taking heed of my family, I called up Akash and said, let's meet, right? And I was like, Akash, this is where we are at, and I'm also looking to raise external capital. Once I raise external capital, फिर तो ये नहीं हो पाएगा. But I feel both of us will do great together, right? We'll join hands, we'll scale up, and we'll build a business. It's no point competing. And I think me and him got along on that thesis very clearly, right? Boss, let's do it. We aligned our agenda कि क्या build करना है. And I think what also worked is we are two very different people. See, that's, I think, something which you need in a co-founder, right? You and a co-founder can't have the same set of skills. Then how are you going to be, right? That's what Akash was saying. So he was, I think, great at being, like ops and finance was his strengths, right? He was very clearly number driven, which I think I've also learned a lot. And I was very good at selling, being a marketing guy. In fact, that's what we had seen also, right? Akash had built a lot of depth in product in his company, had actually worked directly with manufacturers, while I was more focusing on sales and marketing, putting more offers in. So वो सब match हुआ, and we were like, this is great. So this is what I think worked for us. I also recommend you can't go out looking for a co-founder.
Yeah.
You need to find someone who you know, because the most important thing for us was trust.
The currency of trust.
Currency of trust.
And I think the narrative towards this should change right now. Like, I think people are still looking at having a family-run venture-backed startup as something that's stigmatized, right? But if you see some of the best businesses out there right now that are in the limelight are couples, family-run. And I think, as Rishabh just said, right, trust factor plays a very, very big role in achieving success.
I think currency of trust is key for anything to
Yeah.
go.
So like, trust me, like, so when Akash, I will tell you honestly, right, till now I think I don't even know what our bank balance is, right? Because I know, that's the amount of trust we have with each other, right? Akash will never go and double click on marketing budget because he knows I'll take the right calls, right? And that gives us two things. One is trust and independence to take the decisions we want without anyone interfering.
And everyone owning their own verticals.
Yeah,
I think that's
that's
a
the
very
most.
important element to say that you can't,
Yeah.
while you have respect
way to
for
phrase
each other,
it.
you don't overlap or overstep each other's verticals.
Yeah.
You're comfortable in your skin to
Correct.
say that I own my P&L, you own your P&L.
Yeah, that's very important, because otherwise what will happen is if me and Akash both do marketing, right?
You're second guessing each other.
Yes, we'll start second guessing each other, right? I'll try to prove him right, and if we've realized that this doesn't work, right? So if things Akash is spearheading on, I think he will spearhead, I will take a step back, and if things I'm spearheading, Akash will take a step back. I think we've realized that also a lot, right? We'll not try to get in each other's way, and that's where you will excel.
But I think that's also a sense of maturity. Very, very, very rarely do people understand that this stems from the factor that you have to be so secure about yourself and so mature that insecurity doesn't come into play. I see a lot of co-founders getting into conflicts more so because of maybe that little bit of insecurity, little bit of ego mismanagement, to say that you don't know who's coming in the face versus who's not. Like, small example, if you're leading sales and marketing, chances are that you'll actually be out there as the face far more than someone who's leading the numbers, who's looking after maybe the back-end manufacturing. But the maturity to say that everything together is the company, that's both of you and of course your shareholders, I think that maturity comes with age. But I want to go a little granular, right? Again, the purpose of this beautiful podcast and this beautiful conversation is for people to keep learning. Now, you said a beautiful and a very easy thing to say. You guys decided to come together. What does that mean? Does that mean that you guys merged your business? Did you do a business transfer? Did you create a new company? Because a lot of people who are trying, or maybe in the situation that they met a potential looking like a soulmate kind of a person doing some other business, but they don't know what coming together means. So what did you guys do?
So I'll dissect it, right? Rishabh was running a proprietorship. I was running a one-person company. Merging the two is next to impossible. We created a private limited company. And what we did is we took both of our balance sheets and we sold it to the private limited company. Private limited companies, which is a company in which Rishabh and I had an equal shareholding in. And that's where we started transferring the business. By transferring the business, what we did was we started changing all of our back-end sales, payment gateways and collection agencies to the private limited. And gradually what happened was all of the assets, all of the receivables started transferring into the private limited. Private limited is then what we started doing business in. It was the face of the company. It's the entity in which we raised capital eventually. And that's what allowed us to create a very clean, organized structure in the quickest possible time.
See, I already see the beauty is I've seen you guys over the last year, and the roles are also so beautifully dissected. So when it comes to a technical bit, he's explained it so beautifully.